Anyway, my name is Darrol Bryant. I taught in the East Asian Studies program for many years. Courses about the great religious and philosophical traditions of East Asia, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Shinto, those traditions. And Larry mentioned the famous rock garden in Kyoto. And on one of my first trips to East Asia, I'd been in Korea and I was in Japan, and my son, Ben, came with me. And afterwards we were in Japan and we were in Kyoto and we went to the famous rock garden. And I was captured by it because I had studied a lot about Buddhism and knew something about the importance of these gardens for the religious communities in which they were situated. And after a while, Ben came and tapped me on the shoulder and he said to me, he said, "Dad," he said, "they're just rocks." Wanting me to move on. And the other experience I had one time flying into Japan, it was very overcast and it didn't cover, the clouds weren't above all of the mountains of Japan, and they were sticking up through the clouds, and I felt like I was having another view of the rock garden. There were these black stone mountaintops, and now they were spread on this flat surface. Anyway, my task today is to talk about Michael Bird. Michael Bird was my colleague. He preceded me at Renison. He came in 1969, and I came in 1973. And Michael was a very, very amazing part of Renison and saw it from its very beginning as a place of learning. We were one of the first of the church colleges here at the University of Waterloo. I mean, the first was, of course, St. Jerome's, which had an origin that went back to the 19th century. And Renison was a new creation in the late 1950s, early 1960s, and only developed a program, our program in social development studies, in the late 60s and early 70s. And actually, when I came here in 1973, we were still working out the shape of that new program in social development studies. And Michael had been here prior to that time. Michael was gifted in many, many ways. He was a professor, as I was, a professor of religion and culture. And so we weren't looking at the religious traditions only in terms of their own teachings, but understanding the religious traditions and how they express themselves in their cultural setting. And it's interesting, I think, you think about the largest religious community we have in our world. It's called the Roman Catholic Church, right? So why Roman Catholic Church? Because a particular culture and a period of time was very, very central to the formation, the emergence and formation of that tradition. It was the time during the Roman Empire, which has long since disappeared, but still that name is retained in terms of the identification of that tradition. Michael was always more interested than I was in culture in its fine arts expressions, talking about music and painting and the fine arts, and you think about that as culture. I was more interested in culture in kind of an anthropological sense of the people's way of life. And Michael taught from even before I arrived on campus a course in religion and film. It was one of the most popular courses on campus. It was held on campus in the biology building in the auditorium that they had there, and we always had 120 students. That was its maximum size. The students came once a week for a 3-hour class, and 2 hours of that class was spent watching a film, and then there would be some discussion, and then there would be an additional 1-hour class of smaller groups of 15 to 20 students that would meet in addition to that 3-hour session. And Michael brought to that class, and I would say to that same set of films, great enthusiasm year after year after year. Always Ingmar Bergman in the fall, and then a range of films in the winter. This was very, the size of this course was very important for those of us who were teaching in the area of religious studies, because there's always a certain amount of pressure on every area of the faculty to have enough students. You gotta have students. And Michael just took care of that for those of us who were teaching religious studies all by himself, year after year after year. And one of his great interests was in local culture, the Mennonite culture, both here in southern Ontario and down into Pennsylvania. He was someone who went to an auction virtually every week during auction time. I mean, from the early spring until late in the fall. He collected various pieces of fracture or Mennonite art, but he also collected all kinds of artifacts that came from the Mennonite community. And in town, we have the Joseph Schneider House in Kitchener, and it sort of celebrates the Mennonite heritage of this area. And I was talking to someone very, very recently, just 3 days ago, who said that probably 60% of the things that are found in the Joseph Schneider's house come from Michael Berg and a donation that he made to the Schneider House sometime. My sense about it is that it was probably in the 1980s when he donated his collection to the Joseph Schneider House. So, really interesting figure. And one of the things that I miss about the fact that Michael is no longer with us is that when I walk through the Great Hall, as I did this morning, and I think now they've moved the piano out of the Great Hall. Or is it still there? It's still there, okay. 80% of the times that I walk through the Great Hall, Michael Berg would be playing the piano. He was a very gifted musician. He loved to play the piano. If we would ever go to one of the local pubs and they had a piano, Michael would be playing. He played classical music, but he knew jazz, and he played all kinds of different music. He was a very talented guy. And I miss him very, very much, and he was a really, really important figure in terms of the story of this college. And you'll find some things about, there's a history of Renison in the library. There are Michael's books in the library. He published several things that are related to the Canadian, one on Canadian folk art, Old Ways in a New Land in 1983. A splendid harvest about Germanic folk and decorative arts in Canada. And his final book was called O Noble Heart, which examined the spirituality of Fraktur. And when Michael died, a bunch of things of Michael's got put into my office, which is over in the old building. It's one of the things that you're not aware of is, but I'm very aware of. This is the first time I've been in a classroom in this building at Renison. When I came to Renison, there were two buildings in this odd relationship to one another, and that was it. There wasn't a link between those two buildings. That was built. There wasn't the library, and there certainly wasn't this huge complex. And so Renison has changed in many, many outward ways, but I hope that there's something of the inner way that was Renison and that was Michael still remains. So I came across this text. It's the holiness, holy of this earth. 4 spiritual journeys in the cinema of Ingmar Bergman. And going through that recently, this was a manuscript that Michael had prepared, and in here is the letter he has from a publisher saying yes, they would publish it. It was sent to him in 2002, and Michael died in 2003, and the book was, this is the book, but it was never quite finished and turned into the publisher. So my intention is to bring out, find a publisher, and we're going to bring out an edition of it. So, as we mentioned earlier, I still do have an office here at the college over in the old buildings. And I have a little center for dialogue and spirituality in the world's religions. And if you're doing something on Michael Berg, please feel free to contact me. And I have a few things in my office that might be of interest to you. And of course, then we have Michael's books in the library. And yeah. So, questions or comments?
Right.